Today's topic number one says the forgotten Black community. This came with a link that's going to take us to X, and this is an account that I like on X a lot called Typical African. They said Afro-Mexicans are one of the world's most forgotten Black communities. So let me make sure you guys can see my screen. You can. So let me play this. It's pretty short. If I have to, I'll play it twice, just in case people missed it. But we'll watch it and then we'll comment on it.
It's home to more than 1 million Afro-Mexicans, yet these are marginalized and often forgotten communities. They represent to include Afro-Mexican as an ethnic category. Mexico's legacy of slavery began hundreds of years ago.
The slaves in Mexico were in the places where there was mining. This town was founded around the year 1800, most likely by fugitive slaves who escaped to the coastal regions where they could survive on what they found here.
Today, that original African culture still exists in a state dominated by indigenous tradition.
Yet this stretch...
For Rosa Hernandez, the lead councillor of Santo Domingo Armenta, the Afro-Mexican experience is isolating.
We're a vast minority in this country, so that's why many people have never heard of us. They think we're from another country. They don't consider you to be Mexican simply because you're Black. But we are Mexicans, and it's only fair that they recognize us, that they value us as much as anyone else.
As the Black Lives Matter movement around the world seeks change and equality for Black Mexico, the challenge for these communities is still at the point of showing they exist.
Yeah, very interesting. The idea that
It's home to more than 1 million.
Sorry about that. So many countries have an African population, but you would never know oftentimes. Like, for example, we talk about Egypt and stuff a lot, but we don't see the Black folks, the indigenous Black folks of Egypt around there. They usually show us these Arabs and stuff. So it's very interesting. China's like that, Japan. Very interesting how there's these Black communities that no one really talks about. Buana, what are your thoughts on the forgotten Black community?
Well, forgotten by who, first of all? But what I would say is Dr. Runoko Rashidi, when he was alive, he did his best to go around the world and display the images of Black people in different parts of the world, especially in places that you wouldn't least expect. And during Dr. Runoko Rashidi's time, he just really had a digital camera, and he used to take the photographs of many of these people and come back and give lectures on it. Now, since the technology has improved, you have a lot of digital nomads going all over the world, and they put these people on camera where they could speak for themselves. You have people like Ace Live, a brother from Florida, Haitian by origin. He goes all over the world, and he goes into these same communities and interviews these people all the time. And then you have this guy named Check in Effect, who goes into a lot of these indigenous communities and Black communities as well, and allow the people to speak for themselves. So when this person said these are forgotten people, I understand what he kind of means by that. But let me say also, sometimes being forgotten is not always a bad thing, because when you have that westernization coming there heavily, you see the community changes in such a way that I bet you in this community, the older people are looked after by the younger people. There's more cohesiveness within the community, how they treat each other, how they function. Sometimes it's good not to be remembered by some people, because when they come in, they mess with you, and they'll have you wearing, they'll have the men dressing up in women's clothing, and the women with tattoos dressing up as like dudes in the second. So sometimes Westerners coming in and so-called remembering these indigenous communities is not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing. Leave these people. These people don't seem to be starving. They seem to be comfortable. You know, they seem to at least have a food supply. Some Afro Mexican go out in the world and try to learn certain things and bring it back to their communities. Hopefully, it improve it. But it ain't so good that you always remembered by everyone. Because when they remember you, they gonna remember to come and mess with you. You know, and what I have discovered, in watching a lot of these digital nomads as they go about in various different places, is these communities are very peaceful. They're very respectful. Their manner and temperament is very different from the people who've been remembered in these so-called sophisticated countries. So that's not always a bad thing. But I know about the Afro. Everybody know about the Afro Latinos, the blacks in Mexico and Ecuador and Colombia and Brazil. These are communities which are very large communities. But what happens is some of these communities are not English speaking. So in the English speaking world, they're not going to be given that press as other black communities who are English speakers, because the communication has to be translated. So I think that becomes a difficulty with having conversations with the brothers and sisters from these Spanish speaking countries and French speaking enclaves that exist, because there are a lot of black people. Well, all over, even in Venezuela. Even in Venezuela, there's a lot of black people in Venezuela. And black people are going to be impacted by Donald Trump doing what he's going to do, just like um, uh, European Venezuelans. And that story is not necessarily told because it is what it is. It is what it is. But these people exist, and I know these people exist. But the narrative, when people push black people out there, is for a specific purpose. Especially in powerful countries, they use black people as their version of soft power to say, well, look how we treat these people here. Obviously, we're the better country because we provide equality for these people. We get millionaires sitting in high places doing this now. So these are the people who usually get the stage. But in reality, we know that black people exist all throughout the world, man. That's not a forgotten thing. Not, at least not in my mind. But I'll leave it there for now, Coco.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Juan. I think though that I think you're a little bit caught up on the forgotten terminology there. I think what is really being discussed, and I think Trigger is starting to tap on it in the chat, is that you're othered in your own homeland, right? We know that there was a black population in Mexico before these Europeans and stuff like that. And so here are these black folks, and they're being othered in their own homeland. And Trigger points out something here too that's good to remember too. He says they get forgotten because these countries are engaging in a whitening project, or they're trying to create a mixed identity. Mexico tries to build a mixed identity by way of European and indigenous. He goes on to say, from what I understand, when a group within a multi-ethnic society is forgotten, the idea is that they are not economically supported within the country at all. So not only are you othered socially, economically, you're cast aside. And I think that is problematic. And I think even though, because we are Pan-Africanists, yeah, we know about black folks in all these different regions, but what's happening to these black folks economically in these regions? And that's a problem of power, right? With that said, man, let me introduce Jose to the panel tonight. Jose, how are you?
Good evening. I'm 2 hours closer to you, so yeah, I'm here. And how are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. I appreciate you coming through.
Okay, greetings to the chat and the panel, which is one. Is it just the three of us?
No, Black Seal is here too. I'm going to introduce him after you finish.
All right. Okay, Black Steel and Buana. Greetings. The subject. I was, I've had a lot of time today and yesterday, and I came across I was bugging on X Twitter a lot, and I came across the first black Turkish pilot in the Ottoman Empire, and I reacted like something like I want to see DNA results, because I doubt remains of slavery is always, in those areas, Iraq, Palestine, Turkey. It's always remains of slavery, and I don't believe that. I believe we populated that area too, around 2,000 years, max 2,000 years ago. And dude came responding, or someone came responding like, yeah, they migrated from Kenya. Migrated from Kenya. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, yes, black people everywhere. What can I say? I agree with Buana, and I agree also with you about the forgotten part, because they are not forgotten by us. Someone wants us to forget them, but no, they are not forgotten. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Joe. So yeah, that's a good point. Someone wants us to forget them, but they're not forgotten by the ones who know. Trigger Happy says learning about the presence of black people in different places in the world is so interesting. As much as some anti-African groups try to muddy the waters, there are black people in areas beyond being a slave. He says, from what I understand, Joe said there are black people in West Asia by way of both enslavement and being indigenous. So, shout out to the affirmation by Pauline, but shout out to Trigger for some helpful insights from the chat as well. Josie, you want to respond to that or something?
No. I agree, or better, I am open for information. Yes, yes, West Asia, South Asia, East Asia, Philippines. We're everywhere. We are everywhere.
Yes, sir. With that said, man, we missed his presence last week, but he's back here this week. Black Steel, how are you? I did all that for Black Steel not to respond. I guess Black Steel.
I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm actually driving right now. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm in the car right now. Yeah, I heard the prompt. I'm familiar with the Afro-Mexican people group. One second. What we well, so yeah, I'm familiar with them. Many of them actually were, so there were some who were runaways from slavery in America. Mexico abolished slavery in 1821, and some slaves escaped from Texas to Mexico on the Underground Railroad. So there are some of the survivors of that. Also, many of the Black Seminoles who fought in the Seminole Wars in Florida ended up in Mexico as well. So there's a lot of Black Seminoles, escaped slaves. Not only that, but also the population of Black people who were enslaved in Mexico, because Mexico, they had slavery in Mexico, brought there by the Spanish. So they're not forgotten, but when you look at Latin America, they do a job of whitening their population. They call it blancamiento, or mejor la raza, improve the race. So when you look on their media, you look on TV, they always show the whitest Mexicans, the whitest Dominicans, the whitest Brazilians, but they never showcase the Black ones, or even the indigenous ones. Excellent. 'Cause- 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 'c
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Quick question for the panel. I know Black Steel might be busy, but quick question is for those black folks, for those Africans who are not global minded, who are not Pan African, do you think the average black person outside of say consciousness or Pan Africanism, do you think the average black person is aware that there's these black populations like in Mexico, like this group we just looked at on the screen, or in China or throughout Asia or
No,
do you think the average person knows?
no, they don't. No, they don't. In fact, because my girlfriend is in the car, she won't stop talking. She's saying that they're ignorant. What'd you say, baby? They say ignorant things. She's Dominican, but she looks Black American. So whenever she speaks Spanish, people look at her like she has two heads. Like, where did you learn Spanish from? As if there aren't black people in the DR. But yeah,
Right.
I don't. They don't know. They don't know what they don't. But they don't know what they don't know, right? So, and I would say, if you're talking about black people within the United States, most Americans are very unaware of geography, right? So when you see a black person who isn't, who speaks French or Spanish or even African language, the question is, where are you at? Where are you from? And people tend to be generally unaware of the entire diaspora and how far it goes. You have black people in India. I forget, that population of black people who live in India, or the ones who were in Iraq, or the Afro-Palestinians. There's very few places you can go that there is not some black presence there. We are the original people after all. So it's not a shock that these people exist. But again, when you're not aware of what you don't know, then it becomes difficult.
Well said. What about Buana and Jose? Do y'all think, outside of being conscious of Pan Africanists, do you think that most black people are aware of these black populations around the world?
I used to think and believe. I unlike Black Steel, I used to think and believe that black people traveled so much, that they do know. But unfortunately, let me put it like that. After being on the internet, I have discovered that that's not necessarily true. And sometimes you see things through your lens, and it's better to look at people through their lens. I used to think that black people are well traveled. That's not true. Most people don't go outside of their neighborhood, let alone a country. So, and their willingness to investigate, they are very unaware. You know what I like to hear sometimes? I bet you Black Steel wife or she could tell you the countless amount of times she probably would have entered into different sports in even in South Florida, and people talking about her in Spanish, and she just standing there and she could speak the language completely, but she would never let, because they think that all black, they even have a limitation in terms of how they perceive black people, as if black people are fluent in Spanish and French and these other colonial languages as well. So she could probably tell you the many stories of going into the different sports and them not realizing and understanding that these people are fluent in different languages.
Okay. Well, I come from migrants. Of course, we are on an archipelago where every ship a ship of every country passes every few weeks. So yeah, we Cape Verdeans, we are well traveled. But it's not that people are aware, or even what's the word? It's not on people's mind. So we know we are all over the globe. Uh, um, but I don't think that it's conscious, as in there are people there are black people all over the world. A Cape Verdean would not say that, although Cape Verdeans are spread over the world. Cape Verdean would rather say Cape Verdeans are spread over the world. But we encounter blacks everywhere we go. But that notion, that click, is not there. I believe, I'm afraid that we are, everybody jokes about Americans, that they are ignorant of the world, etc. But that's worldwide. Most people are engaged in belonging where they live. They want to belong, and so I don't think our people are conscious of our people worldwide. And I have there was like about 20 years ago on Ning Network. I used to almost beg Black Americans, because they are in the belly of the propaganda beast, right? America is like a flea market, as MG2 always says. America is a flea market that sells lifestyles, and every creed and race has its own lifestyle. So Asians or Chinese, they looked at America, saw Chinatown, and now you have Chinatown in almost every Western world. Whites have this friend 20 years and white, also eats or something like that. Excuse me. I'm 23 and white, or something like that. So they are told to be free and travel and whatever. And us, we have the lifestyle of I'm going to use the word degeneracy. But so 20 years ago, I've been begging for Black Americans to notice us and tell the world about us. If you understand what I mean. So the United States is the propaganda machine, or the narrative machine, and Black Americans live there. And what I suggested was to get to know blacks all over the world, and then tell blacks over the world about blacks over the world. If you follow what I'm saying, because you
Yes,
are right.
absolutely.
Because you are right there in the center of the media. Everybody watches. Everybody's face is turned to the United States. It's changing, of course, but I hope you follow me. So I still believe Black Americans have that position of power to be our Trojan horse in the media propaganda machine, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yes,
I
sir.
wouldn't put
Yeah,
too much hope in that if I were you, Jose.
that's yeah, because I was just going to say, and Black Sea was correct. You can't put too much hope in it, because unfortunately, that group that you're speaking of is propagandized the most. They're in, like as you said, the belly of the propaganda beast. They're propagandized the most, and so right now we're dealing with a delineation movement, and and that didn't just start now. By the way, that's been catching on for a while now. And so here we are. So that group, like Black Steel said, I wouldn't, again, nothing against that group or anything, but they're heavily propagandized as well. So they're not going to be the propaganda Trojan horse that we would hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Go
hidden
ahead,
history
go ahead,
like
Jose.
it. Sorry, hidden history looked like it, but yeah, tarik.
Go ahead, Juana.
No, the only thing I would add is I wouldn't put the onus on the Black American brothers to do it. Even though I understand what Jose is saying, I think that we live in a time now where you have most people have access to phones that have videos. If you want to introduce yourself to the world, Cape Verde people have mouths, and if for the people who don't speak the colonial language of English, I'm sure I don't know what's the language. What's the language in Cape Verde? Jose. What's the language again? Dutch,
Portuguese and
Portuguese.
and
Right,
local and local.
right. Yeah. So the Cape Verde people have access to the people of Brazil. That's 80 million black people, brother. 80 million. So I mean, or even on that level, if the Cape Verde people want to introduce themselves to other black groups of black people, you have 80 million black people who speak Portuguese in Brazil, you know, and other and Angola as well. So I mean, for the people who don't actually speak English in Cape Verde, they could introduce themselves to
Well,
people in different African nations and countries, and also for the people who actually speak English, they could do the job themselves. Don't wait on the other. Don't wait on the brothers in America. Your brothers could do it yourself. You know, y'all don't have to wait.
I understand, but that's a decentralized approach. Brazil already loves us, but Angola, the African Portuguese colonies may give us, you know, they may frown on us because Portuguese recruited us a lot to be their foot soldiers in other African nations. So yeah, we even got songs of that. We even got songs like um, singing about you went there and you stayed there as fertilizer for cacao. you know. So yeah, we maybe we are not, you know, for Brazil already loves us. Brazil, I've seen television programs in Brazil speaking about Cape Verde being in the center of the Atlantic Ocean and thus strong strong potency to become the largest transshipment port of the globe. And Cape Verdeans are sleeping on it. They follow what IMF wants. But yeah, the Brazilians already found us. That we used to go study in Eastern Europe and, you know, Soviet nations, but now like 80% of us go study in Brazil. So yeah, that connection with Brazil is already strong. But yeah, on the continent, maybe people will give us a side eye. The conscious people, the revolutionaries know that we have played a doubtful role in colonial wars. But also heroic in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. You all know Amilcar Cabral. But anyway, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Jose. Just real quick, I want to kind of echo what Buono was saying, and I like how Jose described it. He said it's a decentralized approach. I think sometimes decentralized approaches aren't bad. I think one of the things I wish I could get every black group, wherever they are on this globe, is to understand that, you know what? You're cool too. Y'all do some cool shit too. And stop looking at the Americans for this inspiration, for this thrust, for this drive. You're cool too. What cool shit are you going to do in your part of the world? And I wish I could get that across to everyone. But here we are. Quickly in the chat, I Confide in the chat. He said, black people know about other black people. The problem is colonization, which is Christianity, causes them not to care. European and Europe is a priority. Trigger Happy says the vanguard has to be in Africa, talking about where the inspiration should come from. If we want to do propaganda and push good imagery, it honestly has to develop in Africa. Then he had asked the question, what about Cape Verde relationship with Guinea-Bissau and Senegambia? We'll come back to that in a bit. In the meantime, though, let me welcome in Ditso. Let me welcome in Ditso to the panel this week. How are you, Ditso?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me once again. Pura vida. Actually, this first topic is right on my alley, as everybody knows, because I am an Afro indigenous descendant from the history here in Central America. Um, so, if I can and if possible, I just want to do some real quickly, because I think this is important that we leave it recorded as in many places as we can. One, we know by a fact that at least a minimum of 12 million slaves were brought to the Western Hemisphere between early 1100s or 1500s up till late 1800s or 11800s. So we know a period of 300 and I would say 360, 380 years. That span of 12 million slaves were brought because of the colonization of Europe here. For example, in one of the first encounters with a African servant to Columbus was done as early as 1492 or 11492. He was on the trip with Columbus, Juan Pietro. And in Mexico, for example, we know that the data that the minimum amount of slaves that were brought in Mexico in a period of 150 to 200 years, we're talking even with Hernan Cortés, who had several slaves, African slaves with him. We're talking in that period of anywhere between 150 to 200 years, was a minimum of 500,000 slaves in Mexico, just alone in Mexico. We know that throughout the Caribbean and Central America, and adding parts of South America like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, received the most amount of slaves in that sense, being Brazil one of the major areas that calculations based on the documentation that we have say that at least anywhere between 5 to 10% of the slaves that were brought here ended up in Brazil. So what is funny and has always been funny in I'm using funny in a very loosely sarcastic way, is the fact that U.S. based Black community, and we're not going to deny the history that implemented that is follows in the United States, doesn't realize that the majority of Afro descendancy, or FBAs, Foundation of Black Americans, or ADOS, the American Descendants of Slavery, are not in the United States. They are in Latin America and the Caribbean. And that, one matter of fact, one of the first Black countries and nations that liberated itself from Europe, even before Africa, was Haiti. So in that sense, the problem here resides in the lack of understanding that Black community. I mean, just last year in Georgia, there was the first Inter-American conference between Colombian Afro-descendancy of slavery and U.S.-based Afro-descendancy. So there are efforts that people like me and people in the Western Hemisphere keep on doing, but this is something that we received from our fathers and grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers and great-great-grandmothers in that sense, because we've been doing this for the past 250 years since the era of independence. So it's been like a systematic and constant reminder to the Anglo-Americans, yo, you're not alone. Yo, the majority of slavery did not happen in what is modern day today United States. It happened in what is modern day Caribbean and Latin America, be it Mexico down to Argentina and Central America in that sense. So what is funny is that by saying most forgotten Black communities, it has a double meaning. There's no doubt that the problems internally in Mexico and the racism in Mexico and the difficulties that Black communities or descendancy of slavery communities have had throughout the last 200 years of history in Mexico are there. But alongside that, those internal problems that we could go into depth and have a hell of a conversation into that, alongside of that, having to deal with the erasure that is being done by the Anglo-Americans in regards to the identity of who's Black. So we're faced with a double crime, with not only an insult, but an injury added to that insult. And with this, I conclude, as somebody who knows it's his origin and where his blood came from, where his history comes from, and I am a rare breed because I'm a combination between Afro descendancy and indigenous. That it's not very common in any place throughout Latin America or the North American section. But precisely because of that combination, I'm able to tap into a more centered understanding of what actually happened here. And having that enables me to then raise my voice and say, we're here, we've never left, and we're still here. And just to conclude on this, Latin America has a population of 660 million people, doubles that of the United States. True, divided in 33 nations, out of which 150 million to 200 million people are Afro descendants of slavery, either monoparental or at least one parent. So that means close to half-ish of the population of Latin America are descendants of slavery. Not half-ish, but we would say out of 660,000, 660 million people, 150 million represents about 23%. I may be on my math off right now, but in any case, it represents a big chunk of the population. So thank you. Any questions? Gladly to answer.
Yeah, I appreciate that, did so. Really quick, Trigger Happy in the chat says, for me, I always knew Black people were in South and Central America because of football. I didn't know there were Black people in Mexico until I came online. That's Trigger Happy. He said many Black footballers from Colombia, Brazil, Panama, Honduras, Ecuador, etc. The problem with for me, I recognize early that when you look at cricket or you look at football, classical football, you realize, or soccer, you realize that a lot of Black folks are imported to these different countries just to play ball too, just to play football too. So I was also aware of that some of these places probably don't have too many Black people, but they recruited these guys to play for their squad. With that said, man, let me welcome in our boy, Real Black Gentleman. Haven't seen you in a while. RBG, how are you?
Man, I'm good, Coco. I'm good. I just wanted to show up and spit my spit, you know.
Yeah, do your thing.
As far as this Afro-Mexicans, there's a lot to be said about pre-Columbian trips to the Americas. Just going back to Kemet, going back to the boats that they had. They would sail from basically Kemet to Somalia to Punt in they little reed papyrus boats, which is a fairly large, it's a long trip on a vessel, you know, regardless of, you know what I'm saying, like how you sail, or, you know, if you're kind of close to the shore, which isn't necessarily the best thing when you sail, because if you're on a kind of a rickety boat and you get the waves crashing you on shore. You want to be kind of in the middle of whatever sea or ocean that you're in. So that being said, I mean, there's all kinds of references to African peoples being in the Americas, with several several things. The Carthaginians may have been Hannibal's people may have been in the Americas. This topic kind of I'm reading a book white dude wrote it, Richard Poe. It's called Black Spark White Fire. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that book, but you know what I'm saying, he's just compiling sources, just trying to put put the notions about who really civilized who. But one of the things that he references is what's the name? Thor Heyerdahl. He kind of basically he took one of the boats that was in Kemet. He kind of copied it to the best he could, and he did it once and he almost made it. And on the second try, he made the boat how it should have been made. And he sailed from, I don't know, it was a long, I think it was somewhere in Africa, across the Atlantic. You know what I'm saying? Just long story short, he sailed in a reed. Yeah, in a reed boat, which is, like you see reeds, cattails, basically reeds. You know what I'm saying? Or sugar. We all know what reeds are, on a reed papyrus boat all the way across the Atlantic. Now, if this white man can do this shit, trying to figure out what he done saw on some ancient texts, of course, black people made boats and sailed across the Atlantic. I mean, it is an ocean. You do have storms, but at the same time, one of the safest places on a boat is really in the middle of it, in the middle of the ocean, because like I said before, when you're closer to shore, you have the waves, the breakers that crash, and your boat can tumble over. Even in the middle of a rough storm, if your boat floats, the sea may heave in y'all a little bit, but you'll still be afloat, right? And that's the premise. You sail off. The currents take you to the new world. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these people. I mean, I would say that a lot of the people who would be considered black. I mean, as black as this guy looks, he may have been in a population, like I said, of Africans pre-Columbian who managed to, for what it's worth, the black stuck, the dominant stuck, you know what I'm saying? In this case, where you have strong, look, he's darker than me. I'm telling you, you got strong black people who, some of them are slave populations, but again, like I said, there are peoples who, I mean, this is documented by like the conquistadors and all of them. You know what I'm saying? I want to say someone on Columbus's boat said that they saw African people sailing past them. So I know that black people were definitely in the New World before Columbus, before all of that. And it's important to recognize that a lot of these people, they generally want, like I came in late, sorry, I rewind the video. Like, this man is saying he just wants more recognition in, in Mexico, in which he should have. I mean, what's important though is that, beyond the propaganda that is put on our people, that we actually recognize like as much of our history as we can, because people get stories about coming across the sea and our people came across, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, legends, it only takes is like 5 generations to have a legend just spawn, and all of a sudden, like, what really happened just turns into a tall tale that the truth is in, but you know what I'm saying, it's kind of twisted a little bit. That's all I got to say.
If possible, I would like to just push some back if possible. Real quick
before you do that, I just wanted to comment on something that RBG mentioned. He said he's talking about that book he read, and the white guy who remade the ships that were described. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the book, but I'm familiar with that white guy who sailed that ship. That ship, just to be super clear about that ship. That ship was, as Black Steel said, made of reeds. It was like a basket woven ship. These guys were able to sail from the continent around the world in basket woven ships. I want y'all to think about that. You're like, that's what we were capable of doing. And it was proven that this guy can that technology could have gotten you around the world. Very interesting stuff. Did so, and then after I have to introduce a new panelist.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's tackle this real quickly. In the book written by Michael A. Gomez, African Dominion and New History of Empire in Early and Medieval West Africa, Michael A. Gomez tells us the story of Mansa Musa, the Malian king who came to power after his predecessor, Mansa Muhammad B. Q, failed to return from an oceanic voyage of the west coast of Africa. Muhammad B. voyage took place after an initial dispatch was more or less unsuccessful. We also know that in the famous Hajj of the old governor of Old Cairo, Abu E. Hassan and Ali B. Amir Habib, wrote about this particular trip. But here's the problem. The anthropological evidence tells us that, yes, Western Africans pre-Columbus, in the span of 500 to 600 years prior to Columbus, had naval capabilities to a certain degree. Now, this whole thing, or this whole hypothesis of who arrived before, we have more evidence of, for example, the Vikings arriving on Newfoundland on the Canadian / eastern shores of what is today North America, in that sense. But the dissertation of this hypothesis originates in the 20s by the massive 3-book volume work by Leo Messier, who's this. It's an interesting analysis in many ways, but it's very outdated in many other ways. But it's called The Africa and the Discovery of America, or Americas, if we give valid sense to the North sense. So, based on this, and based on the anthropological evidence that we can obtain either as primary source as we can, or secondary as we can, there's a lot of skepticism. It is true that what we want to do is decentralize the idea that Columbus, quote unquote, and I seriously quote unquote the word discovered, because he did not discover America. He just stumbled on it because the idiot miscalculated the circumference of the earth. And fundamentally, that Columbus was not the first to actually discover, quote unquote, discover this land of the Western Hemisphere. That 30,000 years prior, other humans had already discovered it, which is evident on one example, the footprints of the footprints that have dated 26,000, 30,000 years prior in the White Sands in New Mexico, and then eventually have been populated throughout the whole continent. Now, the question of, for example, we have evidence of DNA where there was an intermingle, particularly with Pacific Coast South Americans, either Peruvians, Ecuador, with indigenous peoples of that area, of the Andino region, with Pacific Ocean or Pacific Islanders indigenous that did cross the Pacific, and we did obtain not only DNA but certain anthropological evidence that suggests that there were certain Pacific Islanders arriving to at least that Pacific region of South America and partially Central America in that sense. So I think that the major point, and with this I conclude, is it is best to not entertain hypotheses that have not given me any form of misguidance, and be able to know and obtain the actual aspect of the anthropological evidence that we have here. So to denote that there were people with dark skin and with complexions that were very similar to what you would find in Africa does not and should not be made into a translation of that they were black in the modern sense of how we understand black. With that, right, I conclude. Sorry.
Thank you for that. And so with that said, let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you?
What's going on, my man? What's going on to the panel, to the chat? Look, those you were talking about the forgotten community, black community in Mexico. Majority of those black Mexicans ain't indigenous. We need most of those black people came here with Juan Garrido. Look up and see who Juan Garrido is, and you'll see how black people came to Mexico. Was it before Christopher Columbus? Yeah. Then you can see that was during the slave trade. They had some of those people ended up being enslaved. Then you can see Gaspar Yanga, who was an enslaved African, who was an enslaved African over there in Mexico, who led a slave rebellion. We black people, we got to stop saying that we indigenous to this land. We're not. And if some black people came here, and if you happen to look like an African with the same hair and the same dark skin, guess what? You'll be black, even in the modern sense. They would be black. And 9 times out of 10, they would have come from Africa. But that forgotten community there was black people. Like I said, study Juan Garrido and see who Juan Garrido is. And you'll see he came here with the Portuguese. He came here with the Portuguese in the 1400s fighting. He actually helped them get land, and the Portuguese turned on him because he refused to enslave the indigenous people of Mexico. There's actually they are the ones that bought wheat here because they showed Mexicans, the indigenous people there, how to sow wheat, how to grow wheat. That's how they were the first ones bring wheat here when they came with the Portuguese to survive. But that forgotten black community, and what I tell people is when we look and talking about, we're going to stand up for Mexican people, and you have the black and brown community. Look and see how the brown people in their countries treat the black people in their country. And ask yourself, why you still standing up for people that want to treat your people that way? That's my take. I get the mic.
Appreciate that, Brother Bakari. Does anyone have any comments, anything they heard or read in the chat?
Just real quickly, what's interesting is Juan Garrido. He arrived in the Caribbean, Mexico area, early 1500s or 11500s, and just so everybody knows, Ivan Van Sertima, was actually born in Guyana, and he was a Guyanese-born British Associate Professor of African Studies at Rutgers University. He migrated to the United States. And yet, what is interesting on this sense, and I want to people keep this in mind whenever they hear a Anglo-American black or African descendancy of slave, quoting Ivan Van Sertima, that you're quoting a man who was born not in the United States, but he was born in Guyana. So how is it that he's considered black? Just gonna leave that there.
Because black is not a United States thing. We got to get past that. People been black for a very, 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 very long time. It's not a United States thing. Study uh Diodorus, ancient Greek, and go study some of their readings. And matter of fact, if I had your stuff, I could send it to you. The same thing I had to show my son. And you would see way, way, way back 2,000 years ago. You would see some people was considered
It's
black, and
it's
people were
my
considered
history.
white, and
I
people
know.
were considered white. Black people's not just in the United States. Black come from Africa. So the term black was a label, just like the term white, because our skin was close. That's what I'm
Sure,
just
sure.
saying.
I get all that. We can agree on the semantics of it and the origins of semantics, and it goes back to the original point I was making. We cannot, by any means, way, shape, or manner, enable a label, a categorization that is applied on modern day, on presentism, to then be applied to the realities that were happening in the Western Hemisphere, either pre the invasion of Europeans and the genocide of Europeans committed here, and the broad of slavery over here, and the era of that invasion. So it has to do with the semantics in that sense. So, in very short and concise way, were there indigenous people whose phenotypical um, aspect was similar to Africans at that same time period because they lived in more tropic regions? Yes, there were clear, you know, correlation in a phenotypical way. But that correlation escapes the causation of why we, Homo sapiens sapiens, can develop very similar traits across an ocean.
I I want to say something about the black. You know, so he's not black. What is he? Is he zwart? Is he negro? Is he noir?
Okay, so if we really want to address how we can categorize, um, how we can, I'm going to make it very simple. How can we
I was
categorize?
being sarcastic. I was being sarcastic.
No,
Okay.
but I'll craft your sarcasm, and it's an interesting sarcasm because it's a moment of education. How can we categorize the people pre-arrival Europeans here? So one of the best approaches is understanding what they call themselves. And then how can we categorize the people post-invasion of Europe in that sense? And it goes into the same line. So your sarcasm works to hit on the point. See what I mean?
So,
Absolutely not. No, I don't see.
with respect to Sister Cheryl, who's a contributor on the panel often, she says she has a question about the indigenous of Australia. So we'll keep this brief because it is a little off the topic slightly, but we'll keep it brief. I know this discussion has been had on other panels like Kofi's panel and stuff like that. But do you consider the indigenous of Australia? Do you consider them African? Anyone can answer, but keep the answer brief for me.
I would consider them to be black, but not African. So the what we know about the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, going back to what archaeologists have found, they arrived in Australia probably around 65,000 to 70,000 years ago. And they pretty much lived in isolation all that time until the Europeans made contact in the late 18th century. So they are black people. In fact, there was an incident in Australian history called the Black War, where they went around, fighting with the indigenous people. So I would consider them to be black, but I would not consider them to be African because think about it. If they arrived in Australia 65, 70,000 years ago, like that's a long they were there in Australia prior to the human settlement of the Americas. So yeah, long story short, I do consider them to be black people, but I don't consider them to be African.
I consider them to be black. I consider them to be Africans. They've been just been gone for long. They were isolated amongst themselves, so they were African people that just ended up somewhere else. But I understand what Black Steel is saying. I understand what Black Steel is saying, that you've been gone so long where you eventually become you become your own people. You may not be that same thing anymore. But for me, I would just still say they're African, especially being isolated. They were just some African people that went somewhere else. That's how I see it. So I'm not going against what Black still said. I understand why he came up. I understand why he say. I understand why he say what he say. But I'm gonna say this. Then I'm gonna. But uh, arguing about if someone is black, talking about don't put labels and don't do this. That's part of, man. I'm just being honest. That's so part of the reason why it is so hard for us to talk about coming coming together, man. Because it is so hard because we want to argue. This group of black people want to be the special black people. So those black people, they're not really black, right? And it's so hard for us. So then I'm the indigenous. So now I'm not the same as you because you say your family came here off a slave. We keep looking for reasons to divide ourselves. That's all. And the more I hear us talk, that's literally what we do all the time. We look for something to divide ourselves. And this have nothing to do with me or black. Me or black still just said. I'm just saying how when I hear this, he hear it and I hear it. That's it, man. I hear them. I hear the mic, man.
I could answer this question. Very good. I think. Um, Ace Life has the guy who I said is a digital nomad. He went to the Pacific Island. He went to the Pacific Island in these areas, in these indigenous black countries, and we could say that they black and they're African. But what's most important is what they say about themselves. And they say they African. They say they came from Africa. That's what they say. So I mean, we could say what we want to say, and the books can say what they want to say. But I really listen to what the people say about themselves. And on camera, everyone can look at it. You'll go on Ace Live or YouTube channel. He went to several Pacific Island countries, and every one of them was saying the consistent same thing. We come from Africa. We are Africans. This is what they say about themselves. So I mean, it may be 65,000 years ago. It may be that long, but when you ask them where they come from, that's what they say about themselves. That's all I gotta say. You know.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to that too. So 70, 60, 70,000 years ago, they arrived there the first time, because it's not only the non-Afro blacks that are there. You also have I forgot shit. Maluku. You also got the Maluku, and they look African, right? On the Papua Islands, the Papua New Guinea. You also have people that look like us with our hair. So 70,000, 60,000 years ago, that I believe that was the first time. The out of Africa theory is not a one-time event. The people it's let's say it was since 70,000 years ago that people been leaving the continent. So yeah, I agree with Juana and Trigger Happy,
So
or Black Steel.
I may be a voice of caution in that sense. But for example, in that question of do we consider Indigenous Australians as AKA Black, and looking at the discussion within the chat that Black equals African, look, number one, we know by the digs in the Majid Bebe rock in the Northern Territory of Australia that the first humans arrived in Australia anywhere between 40,000 to 60,000 years prior to anything on that sense. We know that some of that carried a genetic interbreeding between modern day Homo sapiens sapiens and the Denisovans in that sense, contrary to what happened in the Western Hemisphere, that we see a differentiation of the genetic mapping in that sense. We can also say that, like I stated before, we mustn't fall on the trap and on the idiocy of enabling categorizations, modern day categorizations that we utilize for modern day people and groups of people to be applied to the past. It's just it creates a whole idiocy and problems in that sense. So, of course, for those who claim that indigenous is equal to black, therefore equal to African, and push forwards those hypotheses, if they're consistent, they would say Australians are black. But they wouldn't say that, and they haven't said that, because adding into the issue of Australia f's up their whole hypothesis in many ways. So, since I am not ascribed to use those terms to describe that past, I would tell you no, Australians are not black as we understand it today, modern. Were there dark skin and complexion in Australia? Yes. But that does not equate to black as we understand it today in the modern day.
But
Well,
hold on,
Man,
wait a minute. Okay,
for me,
okay.
black equals African all day. But go ahead, Buana, then real black gentleman.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point. The brothers, the Ditto say that they arrived 60 something whatever years ago, whatever. My question become, arrive from where? Arrive from where? And I say, when you speak to these people and ask them where they say they come from, they are saying they come from Africa. So I am not gonna invisibilize their comments, because for an anthropologist or someone who sits down in a university and writes on paper what he believes these people to be, I gonna defer to them where they say they come from. To me,
But
that
Buana,
makes sense.
but Buana,
Go
we're
ahead, brother.
talking about two different things, though.
Okay.
The people native to us to the continent of Australia have no memory of being from any place else other than Australia. Look at their mythology. Now you're talking about people in Melanesia and the Polynesian islands. That's a different story. But the people native to Australia have no memory of being from anywhere other than Australia. And yes, they did come across. They were Homo sapiens. They crossed the land bridge between Papua New Guinea and Australia that existed thousands of years ago when the sea levels were a lot smaller during the, in between during the ice ages. So black people of who live in that area, in that history, you know, they've been away from Africa for so long. Why are we calling them that? Just think about this, for example, right? We wouldn't call Europeans Africans, even though their ancestors came from Africa too. In some cases, they came from Africa after the people from Australia left, made it to Australia. So I'm just wondering, like, at
Black
what point does Africa end
Hey,
and Australia
say that
begin?
again, Black Steel, because I didn't hear you. I missed.
So
I
here's
ain't
what
trying
I'm
to cut
saying,
you
right?
off. Now
If
I'm
we're
asking you to
talking
say it
about the
again, like who you said
migration
came
of
from Africa. That's it.
humanity, if we're talking about the migration of human beings across the world, right? We understand that, and this is an estimate, I'm going by what scientists say, 65,000 to 70,000 years ago, people reached Australia, right? At what point does Africa end and Australia begins, right? Because you had human beings who were migrating into Europe at that same period of time. But we wouldn't call them African, even though they originate in Africa also. So that's kind of my thing, that where do we draw the line at?
So
And
So
white people are more recent.
good.
That left
okay.
out of Africa. White people are younger. So Australian Aboriginals will be older. So white people recently left Africa. If we're going to do that.
But I would say, one thing, hold on, Ditso.
Sure.
One thing, I say we draw the line at culture. So now, if you now that's legitimate what you say, Black Steel, because when you see the Aboriginals in Australia, even though if you look at how they are in terms of culture, whatever, it's very difficult to say that's African culture. It's very difficult to say that. But I'm gonna tell you what the problem is, Black Steel. When you say that these people have been out of Africa so long, they actually creating their own ethnogenesis. Now you don't use that word, but now that's the FBA argument. We've been out of America, we've been out of Africa so long, we created our own ethnogenesis inside this place. So we are no longer African. That's it indirectly. I know you weren't saying that, but indirectly, when you put a time gauge and say, well, you are no longer African because whether I've been out of Africa for 65,000 years or 150 years, you are no longer African. You understand where I'm getting at? So indirectly, you are making their argument. It really sounded like it.
But that doesn't make any sense, because you have to be out of Africa for a certain amount of time. That's not long enough for a real ethnogenesis to happen. So even when FBA makes that lame arguments, we still know there are a lot of elements culturally that we could directly point to that is distinctly West African. But I see what you're saying.
First,
But
let me do something real quickly before anybody else advances and we lose the opportunity. By the time the Homo sapiens appeared in Africa, there were an estimation of 6 to 8 different Homo species in the world. This happened anywhere between 300,000 to 200,000 years ago. So we know that the Homo sapiens started exiting and migrating and mobilizing from Africa and interbreeding with the Neanderthals, with the Denisovans, etc.
That's not true. That's not true, Ditso.
That's true. That's anthropological evidence.
No, not in Africa. So the Neanderthal was not in Africa. The Neanderthal.
No. Again,
you said humans interbreeding with Neanderthals is something that happened outside of Africa, not in Africa.
What you did not hear is what I said. Okay, let me restate it again, and you can rewind the tape and hear exactly what I said on this sense. What I said is the first Homo sapiens appeared anywhere between 300 to 200,000 years ago. Then, slowly, those Homo sapiens started to exit Africa and start migrating and mobilizing. Once they started reaching areas where the Neanderthals or the Denisovans were, there was clear conflict, but at the same time, clear interbreeding between the two species. This is why the origin of us, what we are known as, denominated as Homo sapiens sapiens, are currently the only hominoids, the only species that survived all that whole mess that was happening 200, 300,000 years ago. So to understand that, and this is extremely important, yes, all evidence shows to us that the first Homo sapiens sapiens appeared in Africa. However, to just do a reduction of that without understanding how and how humans started mobilizing, it's also an absurdity. So, sure, we can recognize that all of us, our first ancestors, the first ones ever, exited out of Africa and mobilized. But from the moment they exited Africa to the moment they arrived to Australia, the genetic thing and the genetic makeup was completely and utterly different.
Agreed.
From what it started in that sense.
I want to mention something real quick, because that's the point that I feel a lot of people that don't understand human migration and genetics don't understand. You guys have to understand, and whoever don't understand, human migration happened in segments. It didn't happen in a generation. It didn't happen in 4 generations, 5 generations. It took the world is large. The world is big. No one group of people in 1 or 2 generations circumnavigated the whole globe. That didn't happen. So what Ditso was trying to say, by the time they got there, due to environmental changes and them being with other groups, they are different people.
Yeah, and
Let me just,
200,000, 300,000 years ago, there was no place called Africa.
Okay,
yeah.
let's watch this. So we ain't gonna go by modern terms no more, right? So here's the thing:
Please.
we ain't gonna argue with FBA and ADOS and the indigenous Black Americans and tell them they African. See, you can leave whenever; it's still there. So is that so now it's getting to the point, and this is why I say it's hard being Black and it's hard coming together with Black people, because Black people want to argue and tell you those Black people are not Black because they left and they've been gone so long. Their genetic marker changed. We know during the Outer Africa theory, Black Africans left, Homo sapiens bred with Neanderthals who were white. For some strange reason, Black people also want to take the European history too and say, oh, those people were Black. No, they wouldn't. Those were white people.
No, they weren't.
And
I can tell you the name of those people.
Okay, good. Let me finish. I ain't cut you off, so let me finish. So,
all right, cool.
And they interbred. But we want everybody to be descendants of us, except the people that is actually descendants of us. We want to claim Europeans. We want to claim Asians. But then when you see the people in Papua New Guinea, and them people tell you they're African, and when the chief of the tribe stand up and tell you he African, you got Black people want to tell you they're not Black, they're not African, but let's figure out a way to claim white people. So watch this. We should never blame nothing on white people no more, because they were just Black people that turned a different color and decided to, so we enslaved ourselves. Don't blame, ain't no white people. Everybody on the world, everybody on the earth is just, I don't know, I guess would be Black, because we want them. But we don't want the ones that is us, but we want the Europeans. And we want to claim the Europeans, but we don't want the Black ones.
You're making a different argument, brother.
Yeah,
Bakari.
It doesn't make sense.
That's not what we're saying. You're what we're doing right now.
Hold on. Because the scope of this first topic here has kind of shifted. Not kind of, it has shifted now. What I think Brother Bakari is getting at, and I agree with it too, we're going through a lot of different eras of time and all this stuff just to say someone isn't Black. I have to go with Buana on this one completely. Shalom, sorry, it was a good question. It's just where it went. I have to side with Buana on this. If them people, and I think Bakari said the same thing, if them people are telling you, we come from over there, and I've seen the videos where them people point in the air, we come from that way. We come from Africa. Who are we to tell them they're not African? I think we're jumping through too much hoops. You know, it's simple. We're Black equals African, and we just keep it at that. You know, I think it was Trigger Happy in the chat. He made a point of Obadeli Campbell, who said something like there's ancient Africans, enslaved Africans, and economic refugee Africans or something of that nature. That's what it is. Okay, you know what I mean?
So if someone says they came from the moon, you must believe that they came from the moon simply because they said they came from the moon. Like so we just believe what anybody says on his face, and what we're doing is what FBA does, is doing lookership. Oh, you look like that, so you must be the same. Like that's like what is that? To me, that's scientific intellectual laziness, because we know when it comes to humans, we know when it comes to animals, plants, something could look exactly the same, but it's not the same genetically. There are two. That's why there's there's categories in nature. That's why there's species. Even within different species, you have different branches of that.
Hold on. No. Hold on. The thing that you're skipping over is the people have a history. They have a testament. They've discussed and passed down their history. And the people of today are telling you, yeah, we come from Africa? Why are we fighting against what they're saying?
Well,
So
when it comes to this
answer that
prompt,
real quickly.
forgive
Hold
me. If it's coming to this prompt, if it's about the Afro on Mexicans, then that's absolutely correct because they have a history of conquistadors taking slaves from Africa, into Mexico. So yes, they are black Mexicans. So I'm not trying to talk against the prompt. I'm just talking against. I came in when Black Steel was talking about the Aboriginals.
Only
But when it
black
comes
of your slave. And let's claim our European brethren. Shit is crazy.
Like I said, when it comes to this, I yield. When it comes to
everybody.
Afro-Mexicans, I'm not saying they're not African because history proves that they are. I'm not speaking against that. I'm speaking about Aboriginals. So that's pretty much it.
Let me make this very simple for everybody.
You have to hold that because you're kind of long-winded, but also I got two other panelists who've been waiting for a minute, quietly, by the way. Didn't interject or anything. So first of all, it'll be I Can Fire. I Can Fire. How are you this week?
Hey, Quaco, respect. I'm all right. Respect.
Yes, sir.
Respect to the panel. Feel me?
Yeah. So speak to the forgotten black community in Mexico for me.
Yeah. I think that the dude in the panel from Costa Rica, he's giving a lot of trouble because he's not really black. He may be. I don't know if he mixed. I need to see his hair. You feel me? But anyway, I love my black Mexicans and my black South American people. This is what I have to say. Are we thinking from a level of power, or just because we're not in the position of power, we thinking on a powerless level? Now, what if we had the power in the world, right? Then who would you protect? Would you say, oh, these Aborigines that are black and being hostage on their own continent? Would you say that because you say they are not African, you would not protect them? You feel me? This is how I look at things. Like, we need a world power. We need Africa to be a world power. So Africa can rule the equator in terms of all the black protection and privilege for all the black people in the South China Sea and the South Indian Sea and the Australian Sea and whatever sea it is. And same protection for the Caribbean and the black people in South America. Protection as in inclusiveness. Africans should come and do businesses with these communities so they can rise in these areas and be what you call well, at least even get richer than the communities around them. You feel me? So and even more powerful, so they can have their own structure in South America, and a structure where it demands respect from even the indigenous there. So, and we not wicked, so we ain't gonna use our privilege on them to say do them wickedness unless they are doing what's wickedness. But it's like how the white people can come and have reserves in Africa where they are right, and Europe is sponsoring them over in Western Cape. You feel me? Europe is sponsoring them. The small hats is sponsoring them to thrive over the indigenous of the land. You feel me? I think we should do these things. This is how we should think in reverse on them. So we structure Black America for Black Africa can do all of that. I mean, it gonna take us to enforce the strength or the wall around Africa for Africa to grow, that it can extend its hand to the rest of the world. You feel me? But that's where we should be going. Instead of, I mean, you don't want you don't want no, you want the land. You want, Africa needs the land that the black people is on in South America. Africa needs to guarantee land for Black America in America. Africa needs to guarantee security for the indigenous of Australia and Papua New Guinea and all that. Guarantees like you have Indonesia is offending the people of Papua New Guinea. That's where we come in. We defend these things and make sure black people get a fair security system in this world. You feel me? So all the pain we need to try to take away all the pain that black people is going through over these centuries. You feel me? And give black people privilege and wealth and morality. You feel me? And that's what I look at. You feel me? I say respect to Latinos, respect to you. You feel me? But I can't focus on Latinos. My focus is on black people in the Latin world. You feel me? I can't focus on the whites or Chinese or these people. These people, a lot of these people, they what you'd call, they hang on to the shirt sleeves and got of white supremacy and got privilege out of it. It's only the black people that didn't get privilege out of the system that they enslaved us to build. So that's everybody. That's everyone. The the black people in in Australia, they went through a lot. You feel me? The black people in Papua New Guinea, they went through a lot. Racism and massacres and all that stuff they went through, just like us. You feel me? We have black people in India. All of Africa needs to be strong so it can protect all of these people, all of them, everyone, and and give them privilege where they at. You feel me? Because of the power that we give Africa. You understand? That's it. That's it right there.
Appreciate that. I can fire. Mr. Cheryl is here as well. Mr. Cheryl, how are you this week?
I'm good. Can y'all hear me?
I can. By the way, shout out to you and your husband. I saw him in the chat earlier saying
What?
peace to everyone.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he was in the chat.
So shout out to y'all.
Oh, cool. And yeah, just really quick, just to change the subject a little, a shout out to all the people in Jamaica that just got hit by that hurricane. Yeah, that was crazy. That was a catastrophic. So I mean, if anybody has any family over there, hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I was there after the hurricane hit, and it was a mess.
Yeah, yeah. Goodness. But yeah, just back to the topic. I'm making short because this is still topic one. So no worries. But okay, so I think as a people and I'm going to get back to the topic, but I think as a people we kind of stretch ourselves thin, and by that we're such a caring and loving people. We try to reach as many people as possible, and I think that's just how we are as a people, and it can be a strength and it can also be a weakness. But I think sometimes we get a little unfocused on what is black and what is not. because like when you go into other groups of people and other populations of people, it doesn't matter how much they look like each other. If they're from different regions, they have categories for people who do not look like the general population of the people. So for instance, if you it's nothing against nobody, indigenous people, they suffered a lot, through colonization, just like pretty much everybody in the world. It's insane. It's wrong, and I can acknowledge that it's wrong, and I can also acknowledge that if you drop an Australian off in Jamaica right now, they're going to know that they're not Jamaican, because even Jamaica has categories for people who are not, or who are mixed, or who are this. And it's not because they're trying to divide, it's just because look at the population of the people, where 90% of the people are African people, and they know this. They look African. So when you put anything else up against that, it's very obvious, and it's very simple who's who and what's what. It's very obvious. We make things so difficult sometimes in an effort to unite the world, right? You got black people that talk about this Afro-Asiatic, Asians. I guarantee your ass go over to China right now. Do you think they're gonna look at you and be like, "Oh yes, unity. Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
can acknowledge my black roots." No, they're gonna look at you like you crazy. They're gonna and that's how we gotta look at people, like they're crazy. Because there's no way in hell a black person go to China and they're looked at like they're crazy. But if a Chinese person go to Jamaica, they're like, "Oh, out of many one people," and oh, you're Jamaican just like us. That should not be. That should not be a thing. And this conversation, this is the reason why you have to draw lines. It doesn't mean you're being mean to the people that are not African. It's just, if you're not that, then you're not that. Or if you're mixed, then you're mixed. It's okay. It's okay to say that and not be a bad person, or be, you're trying to be mean to the other group of people. It's just very obvious.
What about the black people in India?
In India, you talking about Dravidians
No,
with the straight hair?
the ones that was brought there as slaves.
Okay, well, if they were brought there as slaves, then I'm not sure how long they've been there as slaves. It's a high percentage. It's a high percentage chance that they've already been sexed out of existence. They may have some African features, but I think, don't they have a term for that in Trinidad? Don't they call them coolies?
And they do the same thing in Guyana. In Guyana,
I'm just saying, it's very obvious who's who.
Calling coolie?
No, they're called seedy. They're
Good
called
mix.
seedy.
Well, whatever the term is, they have a term, and they have a term for a reason. Because when you put them up against an African population like Jamaica, or you put them up against in America, if you go to Philly, you put them up against, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, where are you from? Oh, look at your hair." It's obvious. We make things so difficult sometimes, but it's obvious that when people are mixed, they're mixed. If people are African, they're African. It's very simple.
What about mixed American?
What do you mean mixed American? You mean like an American that has a white parent and a black parent?
No, yeah, mixed Americans that are considered.
What's that mean? What is a mixed American? Define
like
mixed.
a light skinned American. Black American.
What the hell is that? That doesn't exist.
Isn't he
American is a nationality, not an ethnicity.
Let's not finish, and you're already interrupting. Let her finish.
Yeah, just
I would like to ask the floor once she finishes
if he's considered as an American.
Could we not interrupt the sister, please? Let her finish her point. Then I would like to ask the floor, address some points, but please let the.
I was asking a question.
Let her finish her point. Is what he's saying. Let her finish.
Fine.
I want to add some sense too, if I may.
Yeah. So we're waiting for Sister Cheryl to finish, but I gotta tell y'all.
My bad, y'all. I was talking. My mic was off. Sorry.
I'm just gonna give this prompt a couple more minutes of life. I'm not gonna run on here and run out till 11 p.m. So when you get a chance to speak, you're gonna keep it brief. Else, I'm just gonna cut the mic. All right, Sister Cheryl, finish your thought, please.
Yeah, he said he said, "What about the mixed American?" And I asked him to define what is a mixed American. What is that?
Well, let's just assume
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
of two different parentage.
That's
No,
what I was
yeah,
thinking.
Yes.
no. I was going to answer you, but I was interrupted. But what I mean is, you have mixed Americans that are light skinned that for generations, and they are considered black, right? What I'm saying is, these people in India, they have, some of them have a little mix, and some of them look like us. They've been transferred just like us at the same time. You
I
feel
don't
me?
think
So
so.
what I'm trying to say is, they're as much as valid. Their Africanness is as much as valid as us.
Okay, okay.
You
Let
feel
me give you
me?
an example, baby, because I know. I know if you're not from the area, you may not know, but I'm gonna keep this real short. Just because you're light skinned doesn't mean you're mixed. There are light skinned people in Africa that are not mixed, no mixture at all. So I mean, we gotta put things in context a little. Okay,
Who that?
you gotta, it's because, and then that's why you can't just look at skin color. There's phenotype. Phenotype is very strong. A phenotype in a person is not just their complexion. So you can't just say, "Oh, light skin this and light skin that." My father is light skinned, and we ain't got nothing. Like, we have very good records. Nothing is mixed. There's nothing mixed, but he has the phenotype, and that's the same. And most people, my dad goes into populations of African people all the time. Can't nobody tell until he open his mouth. Can't nobody tell. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you can't just say light skin. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you want to say light skin along with this phenotype, then okay, that's different. But you got to be specific. And I'm gonna just leave it there because this topic is crazy long.
Yeah.
Koku, can I go real quick? I'll keep it short.
I
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
keep it short.
Yeah,
I'm
Kofi
sorry.
and
Like,
then go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mean. Yeah, I came in on the prompt here with the picture I see here. I'm not speaking against the Afro Americans. If anyone saw that documentary about Henry Louis Gates, he did the thing about the African Mexicans and the history they had there in slavery, to the point where you have the people that we would consider, the light skinned, white skinned Mexicans. I forgot the name of the brother's name. He has a statue there, clearly a black man, and they think they have no relation to him due to the Spaniards and stuff like there. So when it comes to that, no, I will not say that these people are black. I want to address the points of. I agree with Sister Cheryl. I agree with this, so because it's basically common sense and science, right? The one thing I do want to mention is that I Can Fire was talking about, as well as Sister Cheryl talking about Indian people, right? Because I Can Fire mentioned about the people in South America. The only black people in South America are the Brazilians and the Guyanese people. And the Guyanese people there in Guyana, if you know anything about Guyana, it's black people and East Indian people. No one is fucking confused about who's who.
What about
South
Colombia?
Indian people.
You have the Buck people. They call
South
them
Asian.
Buck people. The Buck people would be the indigenous people. My nanny, I have people in my family. You can go to the bush right now in Guyana and see some Native American people.
What about Colombia?
Everybody know. I know who the Chinaman is and who the coolie boy over there. So I know the black. No one is confused. I
What
don't
about Colombia?
understand why when we come out of I mean, me. I
What
had to
about Colombia?
be confused when we.
Are you there?
Brother,
What about Colombia?
I don't know why he keeps talking. I don't understand what the confusion is. No one
Colombia,
is confused.
Trinidad.
No one goes walk around Guyana. There's people in Guyana that's darker than me. But guess what? No one's gonna call them black. So why are we doing this? If you see an Indian person,
that's a lie.
if you see how you tell me this? I don't tell you what goes on in the Netherlands because I'm not from the Netherlands.
I live in the Netherlands with Suriname people.
All right then. So I'm not
Dutch
talking about the
Guyana.
Netherlands. I'm talking about what's in my country.
Dutch Guyana,
What goes on-
Suriname people.
You know I'm
Suriname is
Jamaican,
next
right?
to Guyana. I'm not talking about what's going on.
We're talking about black. We're talking about who's black.
I'm talking about within the
Guys,
context.
let's stop interrupting. Let Kofi Linus playing. Josel go next, and then we'll. By that time, we'll be moving on to topic number 2. Kofi
Before we
Linus
move
playing.
on, I would like to have at least 2 minutes
waiting.
close because I
was pretty much done. I don't say anything what goes in the Netherlands or people with Suriname. I'm talking about
The
Guyana.
Netherlands.
how I
Suriname.
grew up. I'm talking about
Suriname.
again in Guyana.
Afro-Suriname people. How do they call themselves? Don't they call themselves black? But what I wanted
I'm not
to
talking
say,
about Suriname.
the sense that I asked,
Jose, let me finish.
minutes ago,
Jose,
I asked
Jose,
for my time to put in some
I
sense.
wasn't finished,
May
Jose.
I?
I wasn't
May I?
finished. Jose, I wasn't finished. And I'm not talking about Suriname. I'm talking about Guyana. I'm Guyanese.
We are talking about black people.
Again,
Jose, let this man land his plane for me, please.
Don't twist my words. We are talking about black people, not about the Netherlands, not about Suriname. We are
no one was
about black
talking to
people.
you. You
Black
came
people
in and you interrupted
Suriname,
me.
black people in the Guyanas, black people in
Oh my God, man.
Trinidad,
Totally
Tobago.
irrelevant. Totally irrelevant to what I'm saying.
Kofi, can you
pay attention?
Can I cook? Because
I was about to finish in the next 15 seconds. Like it wasn't really that.
Sorry.
He interrupted me. All
Yeah,
I'm trying
Kofi, you could be finishing now, man. Just finish.
All I'm
finish the
trying to
point so we can move
say.
on.
All I'm trying to say
Before
is there's
both of
no
you, I asked
confusion when
time.
you have.
Before
You know
both
what?
of you.
Fuck it. I don't care. Go. Fuck it. I don't care. I'm done. This is bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, he kept on interrupting.
So I asked before you both forced yourself in. I asked for some time to put in some sense. Remember? May I
go
now?
ahead, Josie. Yeah, Josie.
Thank you. So I'm going back to Icon Fire and Bacardi making sense, keeping it simple. And I'm going to compare. Yes, I'm going to compare with white folks. You know, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe are second place Europeans. But one day when they get in trouble, every European is going to get in. You know, ready to die, ready to kill. But we're here like no, but this and no, but that and no, but you know, and then we throw in ignorance as real, you know,
Yeah.
because what the past minute, what I try to add is that not only Colombia and Brazil is black, and how do people in Guyana call themselves? That has nothing to do with the Netherlands. So that tactic of pushing me into the Netherlands is kind of not good for the conversation. So why I said I live in the Netherlands is why I live in the Netherlands with Suriname people, Dutch Guyana. How do they call themselves? Guess what? Black. Thank you.
So can I want to give a closure on this.
But hold on 1 second. You know, I'm Jamaican, and Jamaica is teaching Guyana music. So Guyana is the black Guyanese people. They are endorsing Jamaican music right now. They have their own music, dancehall music genre in Guyana. So I don't know where this guy say he come from, but Guyanese people know they are black and they rock with Jamaicans big time. We cuss online all the time. So I don't know what this guy talking about. We deal with black Guyanese. So whatever he talking about, I don't understand. You feel me?
I want to give less than 2 minute closure, please, on this subject.
Make it 1 minute. Make it 1
all right. Very quick. One, the problem here is that people are not listening. They are not wanting to listen because they're subjected to their own bias. Look at what happened on this conversation. The point was Afro-Mexicans, and I would add the Afro descendancy of slavery in Latin America are forgotten communities. And then everybody started going to Australia, talking about Europe, etc. That clearly shows to us that the Anglo-speaking world is insisting on erasing that that history. Fact of the matter is that if we make a clear distinction, pre the arrival of Europeans and the invasion of Europeans here in the Western Hemisphere, as well as pre everything in the humanity, when first humans started appearing and mobilizing, etc., we have to understand that we have to address that history without the modern terms. Now, if we refer to specifically the last 533 years, and more focus in the last 250 years out of those 533 years here in the Western Hemisphere, aka America, aka North, Central, South, and Caribbean, then we have to recognize that the terminology that we're utilizing also helps us to define what was happening. So this whole nonsensical bullshit of just using black, 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 black without a nuance only enables the continuing of the white hierarchy in regards of history.
But you're Latino, so you don't like black either. So that's why you have a problem with it.
Again, fuck off, stop interrupting, and listen for once. Because your notion is such a lie. You're lying, and you're not even connecting your brain to the tongue.
Why are you offended by that?
I am offended because what you just
so
said.
Land the plane now, okay? Because now I'm upset now.
I'm sorry about it.
I come here to have a conversation. I don't need the bullshit that y'all keep. I mean, clearly we are grown people here. We don't need to keep talking over one another. We ain't got to go through all that. And you don't have to run on. Line your plane, make your point, and line your plane.
Yeah. So to land this plane, and we saw with the example of the person who spoke, oh, you're Latino, you hate blacks. That is a complete and utter bullshit. And it clearly shows to us that the Anglo-speaking world in the Western Hemisphere is completely and utterly ignorant, and it's incapable of going beyond hypotheses like these Certima hypotheses that makes no sense. If you want to say Africans came here before the Europeans, go find the anthropological evidence. Don't just state it, do the work. And so far, anthropological evidence tells us that pre-Europeans here, Africans did not arrive here. That's so far what the evidence is telling us. If you find evidence that points to that, great. Let's look at it. But the problem is...
All right, okay.
Yeah.
That's enough now.
Sorry. Point being is...
That's it.
Let's look at the scientific sense.
Just stop now. Just stop now before I have to remove you like I did Ike and Fire. You got to learn to read the room, brother. All y'all got to learn to read the room. Should have been topic number 2 tonight. No, this is not working now. God, hold on a second. Oh, I think no, well, maybe it worked.